Welcome to Facto 24/7. My name's Johnny Rashman. Right, let's get straight into it. Conor Benn, guilty or innocent? Right, let's discuss. Right? Look, I'm not here to hammer Conor Benn, right? I'm not one of these people who are going to take the piss and come up with jokes and things like that. I can understand people doing it, right? People have a right to an opinion, but I don't want to hammer him, right? However, I've got to report the facts that's been presented to me, right? And the facts are he failed 2 drug tests, right? Which resulted in his fight being cancelled against Chris Eubank Jr., right? They never notified Eubank of the first failed drug test, which was a few months before, never notified the public, right? So a lot of fans lost out on money, right? Sponsors, fans, people working at the event, they lost out on a lot of money. And I'm still not heard many people apologise to the fans, to be quite honest with you, right? Okay, the promoters have lost money, but at the end of the day, the fans have lost money. And this outlet is hashtag for the fans, right? So we've been told for months and months now that there's this evidence that's going to come out. The science is going to come out. They've been alluding to the test could have been tainted at the laboratory. And all these things, cryptic messages. Eddie Hearn coming out repeatedly. You're going to see, we're going to prove his innocence. Okay. But we're still waiting to hear and see this evidence because Team Benn keeps saying they want to publicly clear their name. Okay. Show us the evidence. So far, all we've got is that you've given a 270-page document to the WBC, apparently claiming your innocence, or it has the evidence that points towards your innocence, right? Okay, but all we've been told is that you've ate too many eggs. Let's look at the WBC's statement that they put on yesterday, right? It starts off, Conor Benn completed his enrolment process in the WBC Clean Boxing Programme in February of 2022. Enrolment in the WBC CBP is mandatory for all fighters rated in the top 15 in the WBC ratings. Accordingly, he was enrolled in the WBC CBP out of competition anti-doping testing in July of 2022, when the collection of the samples to which the WBC ruling being announced herein pertains took place. Okay. On August 23rd, 2022, the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association, VADA, notified Mr. Benn, right, this is August 23rd, 2022, that the urine, a sample collected from him on July 25th, 2022, in connection with participation in the WBC VADA anti-doping testing program, yielded an adverse analytical finding for clofamine and its metabolized, that's how you pronounce it, M1 and M2. Clofamine and its metabolized are banned substances at all times under the WBC CBP. Clofamine is a metabolic modulator which promotes testosterone production and boosts testosterone levels whilst burning fat. On August 30th, 2022, the WBC notified Mr. Benn of the adverse finding and requested information and materials necessary to investigate the circumstances. The WBC did not receive a substantive response until December 2022. Mr. Benn denied at all times the intentional or knowingly ingestion of any banned substances. His defence against the adverse findings centred on allegations of potential laboratory analysis failures and irregularities in connection with the analysis of his samples and of the results of the samples testing. The WBC consulted several experts in anti-doping laboratory analyses, including an expert consultant with over 30 years of experience in RADA and IOC-accredited laboratory settings. The WBC concluded that there was absolutely no fault of the laboratory that analysed Mr. Benn's samples. Sorry for Mr. Word there. Further, the WBC reaffirms the unquestionable integrity of VADA and the samples collection agencies and laboratories which services VADA uses in connection with the WBC CBP. It was not until early January of 2023 that the WBC Results Management Unit was able to undertake the full substantive analysis of Mr. Benn's arguments and defence. On January 6, 2023, members of the WBC Results Management Unit held an inquiry session with Mr. Benn and members of his legal team. In early February 2023, Mr. Benn's team for the first time provided a detailed breakdown of Mr. Benn's diet and supplement consumption that could have directly affected the adverse finding. The WBC availed itself of the services of an expert nutritionist. The WBC experts provided information about the characteristics of the substance at issue in this case and examples of similar adverse findings in several sports under a diverse number of anti-doping programs. The WBC Board of Governors ruling was based on 1. The facts as known to the WBC at the time of the ruling, 2. Any extenuating circumstances applicable to the specific case at hand, 3. WBC rulings in anti-doping violation cases, the unbiased, commonsensical and just analysis and recommendations of the WBC Results Management Unit, and 5. Credible and reliable health-related and scientific literature. The WBC found that there was no conclusive evidence that Mr. Benn engaged in intentional or knowing ingestion of clofamine. There was no failures in the procedures related to the sample collection, sample analysis of or violations of Mr. Benn's B sample rights that would justify questioning the adverse finding, and Mr. Benn's documented and highly elevated consumption of eggs during the time relevant to the sample collection raised a reasonable explanation of the adverse finding. Right, so there you have it. Basically, Conor Benn's excuse for having this clofamine drug in his system is he ate too many eggs. Okay. Well, what's the evidence? What were the name of the eggs, the brand of the eggs, what farm were they from? Were they imported to the UK? How many eggs did you have? I've heard reports that it could be 34 eggs a week. Has other athletes tested positive? Because really people need to know if you're testing positive because of eggs, and if this is true, then fighters are going to be worrying about eating eggs, you know? Now, look, I'm hearing people say, well, look at an interview with Conor Benn last year before we fought Chris Van Erdem and other fighters, and they're saying Benn was a vegetarian and he wasn't eating eggs. And this is what he said in the article. Okay, but in his defence, he was putting on weight against Eubank, right? Now, I'm not saying he's right or wrong, right? But what I'm saying is he probably would have had eggs to put the weight on, right? However, we've still not heard evidence. We need to see the evidence that supports this claim, because if you go back, and this is really important, right? Mr. Benn denied at all times the intentional or knowingly ingestion of any banned substances. His defence against the adverse findings centred on allegations of potential laboratory analysis failures. Right. So basically his defence was, well, one of his defence was it was somehow tainted, the sample was tainted at the laboratory where the test was conducted. The WBC have come out and said they don't believe that to be the case. Okay, so you put that forward, and then you put eggs, right? Now, I'm not being funny. I had people messaging me as soon as this news came out that Benn failed the test, that eggs, you Google it, it comes up. Clofamine, if you eat too many eggs, it can get into your system. So have they proved their innocence, or have they just created reasonable doubt? Because from where I'm sitting here, this just screams of reasonable doubt. They're just putting things towards governing bodies, sanctioning bodies, you know, creating that doubt. Right, is it the laboratory? They've said no. Right, is it eggs? Right, is it something else? You know, so where's the evidence? Now, when Canelo tested positive for glenbuterol, right, they had receipts from the restaurant he was at. They tested his hair. There was evidence that there was tainted meat. Now, I'm not saying he's guilty or innocent or whatever, you know, but he has been proven innocent, and they provided evidence. With this, We've not seen the evidence. Now, the evidence might be in this 270-page document. Okay, fine, fair enough. Let's see it. Because at the moment, all we're being told is he's ate too many eggs. Okay, where did you get the eggs from? How many did you consume? Like, is this reasonable doubt? The WBC are just saying, well, we believe this was in his system because he told us it was eggs. We need to see the proof. Now, as I say, I'm not going to hammer Conor Benn because he might be innocent. I know people are hammering him saying he's guilty, he's guilty. And if you're asking me, do I think he's guilty? I can't say. I'm not him. Only he knows that. But do I believe this got into his system because of eggs? No, I don't. I don't believe that. I believe they're just putting that out there because it's an explanation how it could get into his system. You Google it, it's the first thing that comes up. So I just think they're just throwing everything at this. They've got good lawyers involved and they've created that reasonable doubt. But the problem is, when you're a promoter and we've been told for months and months that we're going to have this earth-shattering evidence, we need to see it. Let's see it. Let's see this document. Pull it to the public. You've had your hearing from the WBC. There can be no legal ramifications now. So let's see this evidence that you promised that you will show us. Let's see it. For me, it stinks, doesn't it? Now, Conor Benn never renewed his British Boxing Board of Control license. Now, the wording is he never renewed it. Well, he gave it up, in my opinion. Why did he give it up? Is it because they can't put an investigation in now because he's not a license holder? The board can't look at this? I don't know, but it seems like loopholes have been used now, right? And to come out after months and months and just say, well, we believe he ate too many eggs. Well, it's a bit of a joke, isn't it? Like, on what basis? Surely you can put more out than that. You can show us the evidence. Now, we're all involved because we've been told that he wants to clear his name publicly. So let's see the evidence. At the moment, it's just he's had too many eggs. Well, that's not really good enough in public opinion. It's good enough in boxing because we know it's a joke. Anyone can do what they want. There's no official governing body for all of boxing. It's sanctioning bodies, governing bodies here, there, and everywhere. It's a laughing stock. It's the Wild West. It's a joke. That's all it is. I want him to prove his innocence, right? I don't want to be sat here and for Conor Benn to be guilty and me accusing him and that's the truth. I don't want him to be. I want him to be innocent. But at the same time, I'm not an idiot, right? And if you're going to tell me something and you're not going to stick to that word, then I'm going to question things. And all I've been told is there's this great evidence. Okay, let's see it. Let's see it. So I'm going to reserve judgment about is he guilty or anything until I see more evidence. Because, look, we're all invested in this case and we can all have our opinion. But it is important to tell you that there's two sides to every story. And he may be innocent and he may be guilty. So I'm going to reserve my judgment until I see more evidence. But I don't believe this drug clofamine got on his system because of eggs. I think they've just put that out there to create reasonable doubt. That's my opinion. What do you think? Do you believe Conor Benn's version of events? Is he guilty? Is he innocent? Like, comment, subscribe, let me know.